Hello and welcome back to Higher Hertz. My name is Justin Leppard, your online cello teacher, and today we're finally at the end, part 4 of our Suzuki journey. I guess technically part 5 because Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is the first one in the Suzuki book. The goal with this series has been to familiarize you with the repertoire that's in book 1 of Suzuki. The reason people like Suzuki is because there's a great progression to these songs. They're not a substitute for practicing scales, arpeggios, etudes, and all of that, but they are how you're going to be able to systematically apply that to music. So in these videos, I've hoped to also share what that progression is, give you the overview of it. Don't follow along exactly at the speed in this video. Pause it, come back to it, but it'll give you the overview so that you know what to expect when you go to learn it. And in the first couple books of Suzuki, the fingerings are marked. So I'm not going to take too much time to break that down. I just want to show you guys, especially what the phrasing is, how the music is made, what the different markings mean, and why they're there. All right, so we only have 3 songs left. Are you guys excited? I'm excited. I mean, you have made it this far. If you've made it this far, so congratulations. 15 is The Happy Farmer. So as these songs have progressed, some of them are called songs. As these pieces have progressed, they've always added something additional. So in this one, we're in C major. So we're really in the key of our lowest note. We have some articulation markings, but nothing that we haven't seen before. Again, the dot and the slur means that it's separate, but still full. And when we have a dotted quarter note, that's the count of 3 eighth notes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right. And what's so fun about this one is just its grace. They actually call it allegro grazioso. Wait. Giocoso. What does giocoso mean? Okay, so similar. It means lively. So yeah, this is just lively, fast. Let's go through it slow, and then we'll come back and kind of play it at maybe what a full tempo is. So we go, and that's our C. And remember how I always say that G is the dominant of C? That first note's G. So that's what's going on there. And those notes are just an F major arpeggio. And that same trick was from the last song we did in the previous video. We have the haka to the G. That's the dominant of C. So you could also just practice those notes and then add in. So that still ends a question to me, because that's on the G chord. This is the third of G. That's the 5 chord if I ever heard it, because you can hear that tendency to resolve to C major. Or if you can't, then you should start familiarizing yourself with that, because that is the tendency. And one thing I want to mention about playing these low Gs is really make sure that you're gripping it. If you're going from the D string to the G string, suddenly you're going to need a little bit more weight and to be in the string a little bit more. So just remember that. You can take a little bit of time when you're practicing it in order to be able to set the bow and get used to that. All right, so that second phrase was an exact repetition. So what do we do with an exact repetition? We still play it a little bit differently. All right, so we'll come back to that. We have to see where the piece is going to go to know what to do with it. That was a short B section. There's the rest of it. And you could probably get even faster with this. The faster you get, the lighter you should be though. So if you're going slow, you can take that time. And then just really be trying to just hit every note clearly. But if you get faster, lighten up. also put a trill on that second to last note if you wanted. Depends on how fast you're going, for sure. The hardest part of this one is simply going to be, you'll want to play it fast. Not only are the notes a little bit, you just have to learn what they are. But if you've been practicing C major arpeggios, then this one is really no problem. But you're going to have to still phrase. So remember all the same rules. So when we have, that thing that goes up and comes down, dun 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 dun, that's how we're going to want to phrase that. So same thing here. That is more unresolved than the E is. So that whole thing comes down. So I think because the second phrase is going to have to come down into the B section, what we'll do is we'll press it a little bit. Feel how that's a little bit, that adds tension because it's going down and the tendency is to get softer. So we're going to here actively go against that in order to feel the propulsion to the answer phrase. It's coming down because we already tried going up. We just did it the same, right? That's sort of the character explanation of this. And here is where I would put the biggest pause, because the second time it happens, it isn't as surprising. See what I mean? And I would do a little bit of a decrescendo at the end there, just, it's kind of closing out. But remember, too, to keep this one happy. If you find yourself I don't think that's quite the happy farmer. So this is where the actual pursuit of musicality comes in. It's not just enough to, try to have a good tone or good intonation, but the other thing is those things are emergent properties of what happens when you try to make the music. The music is the experience of, oh, this guy's playing cello and it sounds like, it's Happy Farmer guy. That is what the music is. It's that effect. And the way you get that effect is by not getting too aggressive with it and basically just finding the articulations that make it sound happy. Now, luckily, this music is basically overmarked. So really dig in there and really ask yourself what all the different notes mean and definitely slow it down. But also, from time to time, just in some way or another, whether you can kind of sing it to yourself or just do left hand quickly, finding a way to play it quickly in whatever way you can will be able to help you then eventually get it all. Because if you're playing it slow and it's completely different musically from how it is played fast, that's not going to help you. So that's the key to slowing down. If you want to play this under tempo, it's okay to still to have a lot of space between the notes, almost in a way that might be a little unnatural, because you are, at the end of the day, going to be making it faster and not have as much time to play those notes in the first place, if that makes sense. All right, minuet in C. We've been in C. Oh my goodness, we're finally out of the whole halftime, common time thing. We're back with something in 3. So a minuet is another type of dance. So you can think like waltzes are in 3. Minuet is another type of dance that's in 3. And it has this form where it has this A section that repeats, and then it has this B section that repeats. And the B section is this B section to A section thing that we've been talking about, where it's going to go to someplace different, but it's also going to come back. And yeah, we don't go back to the A section again. Just double checking that. All right. So what else can we notice? We have this double up bow. So what they're saying there is that you will keep moving the bow, but you'll re-emphasize with your index finger. That's what that means. We have a slur in bar 3, and then we don't in bar 4. But we'll see about that. Sometimes we'll see about that. All right, and our highest note looks like it's C, and our lowest note looks like it's C. So we can keep that in mind, that, as we want to follow the rule that, as we get a little higher in pitch, we're a little louder, there's not a lot of range in this. So we might be able to make more extreme some differences of even only a couple of pitches off. So let's take this at it says gracioso. Nice. That's the marking I thought the previous one had to begin with. Just like, with grace. Lovely, right? So one thing that I'll point out, we never want to play the same note the same way. So in bar 5, we have 4 A's all in a row. So we'll want to have a stately one, and then we'll have 2 that are moving towards the downbeat. You can put a little bit of a skip on that, I think, because you're giving even more emphasis then to the following note. You can't really have an attack on a note unless you have a little bit of time before it. So that's like one of those secrets. If everything's too connected, it's not going to have any extremities to that. All right, so then we would play this again. Now, when we play them again, we don't want it to be exactly the same. It basically is its own answer phrase. Honestly, I actually feel like this and the Happy Farmer before it, these are like finally the ones we're getting to in Suzuki Book 1 where, okay, this is actually music that I kind of enjoy. Like I could play this and it's like, oh yeah, I get what this is about. Not too dinky, in other words. So I'm thankful for that. And hopefully you are too. All right, so let's keep playing here. We've been in the key of C. We're starting on D. I suspect that D is part of a G chord, the dominant. I really want to emphasize noticing what the dominant is because that's like a huge part of classical music. So we're starting here. And again, we have those 4 in a row, but we're just going to do it the same way. A little bit quieter though. Stately, lead in, skip, down, right? So I think because this is so sensitive, we really want to play it quietly. And because we do get a repetition, a chance to play it again, we can make the time when we repeat it actually a little bit louder and more affirming. So let's do that because remember, it's its own answer phrase in this case. All of these are 2-bar phrases. And it marks to do a retard or to slow down that second time. Now, one thing that I just want to make sure that you actively know that I notice I was doing is on those last 2 lines, when I have the higher notes on their own, really full bow and a little bit of vibrato. Even more. Those are the pulls to the heart. It resolves here. Okay, so that's really lovely. I think this is a really lovely piece. All right, guys, we are there. We're at the last one. I do believe this is great. Minuet number 2. I don't know whether that's because it's the minuet, the second in this book, or whether it's actually the second one that Bach ever wrote. Anyways, this is by Bach. We're in the key of C major. So you've noticed that the way that they've been able to make the progression in this book is we started in D, and then we went to G, and now we've gone to C. So they've increasingly included low strings. Now let's go see what our range is. It looks again like we're only going up to the high C, but it also looks like maybe we go a little lower, down to A. So there's a little bit more range in this. And I also feel like with this one, it's helpful, again, to point out how a lot of the time composers, and Bach was one of the greatest composers who ever lived, are taking one idea and just putting it in different circumstances, basically, like a sitcom. So the main character, or the main situation of this piece is that sort of thing. So I think it's totally appropriate if you're learning this to just spend some time on that first bar, or like also with this resolution. If you have a great concept of how that's supposed to sound, it'll carry over to all of the permutations throughout the piece. But if it's not there to begin with, it's going to be a lot harder to structure this piece. And if you haven't been practicing your arpeggios, that one might actually be a little bit tricky, because you're going to have one note on the G string, two notes on the D string, one note on each string. It's just a little bit complicated and confusing. So you want to take that time away to just go. Just to make sure that you actually know that. Barring that, the bowing that we want to use is we do want to have still a little bit of separation, but they've marked tenutos. They really want to do. So even though there's going to be clarity to the notes and just that tiniest bit of separation, it's not. And again, that's where, you know, you can hear it as, oh, that's dirtier, but it's actually just that sort of short off the string playing is not what we need here. So musically, we just need to be more in the string. All right, and it's forte. So this is really glorious. Anytime you have a big arpeggio like this, you know, that's meant to be glory. And Bach was a religious composer, so that's, I think, one of the important things to feel here, even though it's in this minuet dance form. This is glorification. And when we do these two hooks, the point of the hook is so that we're able to start down bow. We still want to play the second one quieter, even though we're going towards the frog, which is heavier. Just want to point that out. And do, again, the highest note, give it more bow and a little bit of vibrato. So with this phrase, we have a scale. And it's outlining a D minor chord. So that's not C, so it's something that's a little bit further away. So that's why we give it a different character. Maybe eventually you'll bring the A up here. And do a fingering like that, but until then you just want to be able to be careful with that A string. And again, with this one too, you want to be careful. You want to give yourself enough bow here to get all three beats up bow without something like that happening. So you can use these notes. So if the down bows are a little longer than the up bows, then you can shimmy yourself out to the tip. So that's the technique there. All right, now we have it again. So here we have a triplet. That's, I think, the first time we've experienced this here. There's a little 3 under those notes. 3/8 notes in the space of 2. Normally we would have, well, we'll do 3. And I do also just feel, you know, Bach was a keyboard player, and when he writes these whole notes, I think it still might be okay to take to take a pause, to almost give it a full value, like dotted quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Like, it'll still ring out, but it'll give you the freedom to really dissolve the note into nothing and to be able to retake. Now, musically, one of the things that I think is going to be most challenging about this is the fact that we have a repeat sign. This is a minuet, so minuet means those two halves are going to repeat. So how are we going to play this 4 times, this idea? Because it repeats even within the repeat bars. So that I think is the question. But that would be the question to ask as you're practicing it. Let's play the B section. Now play it quieter. So there, an interesting rhythmic thing happens that's called a hemiola, where basically we're not actually feeling the downbeat as the downbeat, we're feeling like a bigger pulse happening. So let's think here. We have piano written. We're higher, and Bach makes sure that we know that it should be louder as well, mezzo forte. Give that Give that its little sweetness. Play the repetition quieter. But now we're basically in 2, even though we're in 3. So bum ba dum bum dum dum ba da da dum bum ba bum bum ba. See how that works? That's that hemiola. So it's a little bit confusing, but it helps if you really think about those notes. And that'll help you feel this little kick that happens in the middle of it. And this is a totally new phrase. Play with more bow. He marks it forte, really open. A little bit louder. Now we're back. But we repeat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Every quarter note, it's its own story. A little bit more rising. Play it quieter. Sweet. You don't have to hit the low C there. And yeah, with this Baroque music, you're definitely welcome as you feel it to add some trills. No one's going to fault you for that. That was sort of normal practice at the time to ornament, it's called. Those are ornaments. Same with any sort of all of those are like little ornamentations on what's going on, and they're all okay. All right, I know that one went by a little bit quickly, but I hope that you guys had fun. Man, this was so fun to finally get to the end of the book and get to the songs that really make sense musically, in my opinion, are a lot more fun to play. But you can see how if you jump right to this music, there's a lot going on. It helps to have that foundation. So try to be, if you want to be kind to yourself, I would just be systematic about it. And, there's 17 songs in here. Give yourself 17 weeks and work on one song every day for a week. All right. And then you can get through it. And then when you've done that, take some time away and then come back to it because now you have a context for it. So that would be my recommendation for how to teach yourself these songs. I hope you guys have been having a really great time watching all of our cello videos. I hope to be helping you learn how to play cello. Let us know in the comments how things are going for you. Once again, my name's Justin Leopard, and this has been a production with Higher Hertz. We look forward to bringing you guys the next cello lesson video, and we'll see you in it.